Alright, welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings in Inmendham, sort of. Anyway, from my point of view, somebody in Inmendham, I suppose. Somebody in Mendham. Yeah, I said that wrong. Anyway. There, intro music. And what else do we need? I don't know, a flashy graphic. Pen with a logo on it. Yeah, they're throwing in a free advertisement too. Cool. Alright, so, yes, this week was just a week. I can't remember what I did a video on, but I did a couple of them of some kind. Been a little distracted lately just by, you know, the whole life thing being a little bit, just too much carnage, you know, and all the in the little subtle ways. You know, the problem of somebody having a stray cat, you know, having kittens in their yard, kind of a thing, and the dilemma that it brings up, and the fact that all kinds of unpleasantness has to take place. It's just not going to be free, this creation of life thing, and the implications of, you know, there's nothing benign in it. There's 5 kittens, 3 of them perhaps females. That's a real problem. And, you know, there's no mechanism to take care of this slop. Just another bit of irresponsibility that just let loose into civilization, this idea of making problems that show up in somebody else's backyard. You know, so the pet havers create this liability, you know, the pet breeders, and yeah, just no mechanism to take care of it. And then you can just say the same thing that's happening in the human condition is, you know, the poverty is exploited around the world because it creates this cheap labor, and nobody wants to take responsibility for the suffering that is a consequence of that circumstance. And it's just wrong. And by taking responsibility, I'm just sort of implying that if you glean any benefit from your existence, in a sense you're profiting from those errors made in almost everything we do, and the sloppiness of it all. And I can revert the conversation all the way back to the fundamental mechanism of life itself, and we get into the whole biosphere lives for your exploitation, essentially. If we were rational machines, no, you couldn't justify it. Let's say we were more mechanistic, and let's say we were implanted by some alien thing, and we knew that, and we were just robots, and we found out that this entire biosphere ended up being created to serve a bunch of robots doing nothing spectacular, you know, just machines that spin around and go beep, boop, 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 and that's all they do. Just spin around and boop and beep, and you know, little light flashes and such. That's, yeah, nothing spectacular, and that it was all being paid for by a bunch of organisms getting ground up, eaten every day, and consumed and brutalized and blah blah blah. And you know, there'd be no, well, I wouldn't have to make these arguments because it would be just too obvious how silly it all is. You know, you wouldn't torture children for a football game, right? I mean, if the actual equation was placed before you, let's paralyze some kids to have the Super Bowl, you'd say, no, it's not that. Too expensive. But we do it. It's a practical matter. And everybody just pretends it doesn't happen, but it does. And everybody pretends the animals that they eat don't suffer, but they do. And everybody pretends that bugs that cover the earth in an insane thickness don't suffer, but they do. So somebody made that kind of comment, that consciousness has something to do with self-awareness. And so if you can't recognize yourself in the mirror, somehow that means you won't feel it when I shove a stick up your ass. And it's just illogical and silly. Intelligence has nothing to do with sensation. And if you know anything about science or biology, you can sort of do a little bit of simple calculations and figure out that the suffering part came before the part that figures out how to solve the problem. And that it creates. And so that the ouch is probably much older than 2 plus 2. It's probably much older than, hey, that looks like me in the water. It's much older than strategies and memory capacity and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, obviously it's essential to learning, but it's, no. There's no point in going into the detail, because the people who wish to believe they're cheap enough to be justified that it doesn't matter are just going to come up with rationalization. So even if you said the animals suffer, they'll somehow figure out how to nigger them, make them go away as being relevant. Somehow they're criminals, or they're some other thing that doesn't need to be thought of as a relevant thing. And therefore they can continue to perpetrate their crimes against reason and logic. And everything's okay. The good ship Lollipop can continue to sail, because even though it's perpetuating horror, torture, all kinds of nastiness, it's okay, because we called it the good ship Lollipop, so obviously it's not a problem. It's not the good ship horror and hell. It's not the good ship pointless suffering. It's not the good ship most people are poor, not rich. It's not the good ship, working 12 hours a day sucks. It's not accurately described, so there's just no point in having a conversation, because, yeah, in the context of the phony axioms and the fake descriptions, there's no real math to be done here. There's no real rational equations that can be performed, because people will just keep evading the obvious 2 plus 2 nature of it all, and they'll just say things like, I don't believe in truth, and there's no proof it's a truth, or there's no fact or reality, it's all just whatever I say it is. And it's just, there's always going to be an evasion. There's always a back door to walk out of the obligation to take responsibility for your participation in a massacre, in a horrific imposition of horrifically and horrible misery and suffering. That will happen, will be endured, will be suffered, and it is for no good cause. Again, it is like torturing children for a football game. Nobody rational could say a stupid, silly male soap opera, contest of good luck, has anything to do with something valuable enough to compensate for even an infected toe. Frankly, there's just nothing there except your silly addictions and attachments and sense of what gets you off. So anyway, so that's probably what the videos have been about, or something like that, and it's the context of my current condition. It's quite dismal. The weather has turned quite yuck, and it's really taken the edge off anything called fun. And then there was a couple of little bullshits there's no point in me going into in detail of any kind. The computer's been a bit of an asshole, And GoDaddy. Played the same game as before a few months back, had a big problem. Play the same exact game again. And I think what the game is they have a whole bunch of customers who are malicious assholes. Probably some kind of terrorist on the internet. A bunch of anonymous coward malware sellers and shit, and people doing disreputable things. And those servers need certain kinds of access on the internet to perform their malicious activities, which is they need a certain amount of anonymity. They need to hide their IPs and do other kinds of things like that. So they have to use ports and handshaking maneuvers to try to trick the rest of the internet into not knowing who they are. And sensible, decent companies like Verizon, right? An evil, awful corporation, but nonetheless, certainly sensibly say, well, our customers really don't need that, so let's not connect to those evil, stupid shenanigan servers. And what happens at GoDaddy is when you're a customer who doesn't buy all their little jiggy jaggies, you know, if you don't buy their search engine spamming software, or that you don't buy some other rackety deal like hiding your name off your Whois database, and you don't buy all the little extras, they say, gee, this guy just bought an account and now it's all paid, and we don't have any interest in really making him happy because fuck him, we got his money. And they decide to put you, an honest person, on the server full of assholes. And then that server gets blocked by the internet, sensibly. And then they blame the rest of the internet for blocking their evil server. And they complain that your internet connection is insufficient because it's not allowing malicious servers to connect to my computer. So anyway, in other words, they try to make it my problem when it's their problem, obviously. And they waste hours of your time playing these silly games. Let's do a trace RTR, and let's do this, that, and let's do blah, blah, blah. Like they don't know what the real problem is. And when you finally say, you know, you people are fucking lying cunts that are just fucking thieves, and I should sue your balls off, and you hang up the phone, a half an hour later it seems like things are starting to get fixed, and magically Verizon has decided to change what it's doing. See, I say fuck you to GoDaddy, and all of a sudden the problem at Verizon goes away magically. Magically. It's a Trump impersonation. Magically. Magically. Anyway. Fucking douchebag. Which we can get to, I think, now. So anyway, I don't know whether I want to just make GoDaddy Sucks videos, but what's the point again? People don't, you know, oh, just because they treated you like shit doesn't mean they'll treat me like shit because I'm a nice person and they won't treat me like shit. Yeah, but that's their game, is making money, and you don't make money without treating people like shit. Unfortunately, it's the world we live in. Fucking cunts. Selfish, greedy, motherfucking cunts. Like Stefan Molyneux and his friends. Thief and crook and fucker and bastard. They all should be motherfucking asphalt. But anyway, till we have a sensible law saying let's make the roads out of evil, rotten, selfish cunts, till we do something sensible like that, we're just stuck with this shit. So anyway, let's play a little bit of this Trumpy thing, by Stefan Molyneux, where he's going to rationalize or make excuses for. So, if I was Trump, something tax returns. If I was Donald Trump, I don't know, I can't read it. The tax return question, if I was Donald Trump. Well, anyway, okay, let's see what Stefan would do. How he would pretend to the American people that, well, it's okay I didn't pay any federal income taxes, and I talk all this shit. Because I'm rich, and rich people deserve to have a better life than you scum. I inherited the right to a better life, and you fucking know it. don't you just say that stuff? I mean, that's all you're defending, you douchebag. I mean, this asshole's pretending like he's defending hard-working and inventively thinking people. And no, the only people you're helping are the laziest scum on the face of the earth. They inherit a life, and then they point their finger at people that go to work every day and call them losers. That's who you're defending. That's who you're making life easy for, you stupid retard. Anyway.
Yeah. Mr. Trump, we're talking about the burden that Americans have to pay.
Okay, so let's see. He's playing the other guy up. Let's increase the volume. Oh, I know what I do. I'll do it at the speakers, because that's where the volume needs to be increased. Yeah, that would be the smart place to do it. You know, the guy last night was a little too loud in the draft science room, so I turned on the speaker, and I also, I had to unmute him once, and I clicked on his icon. And you got to remember, in those stupid live rooms, as soon as you click on somebody's icon, that stays as the image forever. Little things like that are just so irritating. But anyway, got to play by the rules. It's just the way it is.
Yet you have not released your tax returns. Don't Americans have a right to know if there are any conflicts of interest?
First of all, I reject the petty politics of...
Oh, I reject the petty politics of every presidential candidate since I don't know who has had the obligation to truthfully acknowledge his personal relationships and any kind of entanglements. And certainly in the case of a modern America, where taxes do have to be paid, and where you sell yourself as a great person by saying, I give to charity, and there's going to be no evidence of this gift to charity, that's relevant, because he's a fucking lying cunt. So don't pretend this isn't about Donald Trump being a liar, and the tax return being a simple way to prove he's a fucking liar.
The question. My ability to lead this country to greatness does not depend on the contents of my tax return. In fact...
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, if you're pretending to be Donald Trump and you think that would work, most people know that we're asking for the tax return for a good reason. It's not a good reason. It's a very good reason. And that if you actually do get elected president, you're going to be obligated to put your entire holdings in a trust anyway. So that's going to have to be, it's going to have to be fairly well understood what it is before somebody can, take control of it. And, the game can't be that I'll just slide into my daughter's account.
One of the ways I'm going to make America great again is to prevent Americans from having to file tax.
Oh, okay. So if that's going to be the argument, I'll make America great by pretending that it doesn't take any resources to do anything collectively, and that we will never, ever, 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 ever do anything collectively, and we'll make everything a private road, and make everything access to the rich only, and all the health protections. We'll have the regular people, eating vitamin supplements that were picked off the side of highways, while the rich people can afford to watch it produced properly and with safety precautions. So we'll have two standards of life in the world, the standards that the rich can afford and the standards that the poor can afford, and we'll know that they're going to be very different, and the poor are going to have cholera, and the rich are going to sit on top of their mountain and just roll their shit on top of the poor. Fuck you, you're a cunt.
Returns that run into the dozens or hundreds of pages under the crushing weight of ridiculously
Right. They're only ridiculously complicated because we've created a bunch of shenanigans through which rich people get to declare themselves non-entities that can't be sued, and where they get to play this stupid deduction game where they can turn every single thing that happens in their life into part of their business expense because it inspired them, or in some way they made a decision, because when they slammed the phone when they were pissed off and they broke it, somehow, oh yeah, well that's a liability of doing business, so yeah, I get to deduct that and buy a new phone. Where Joe Smo doesn't have that right.
complex laws and regulations, which no single person in America fully understands, but which every person in America can face jail time or fine.
Yeah, well, we know that regardless of the complexity, you don't have to apply yourself to any of that complexity if you're just saying, look, I just want to honestly pay my taxes. So yes, then it's a little bit of work. It's still work, but it's a little bit of work. It's only if you want to gain advantage and you want to sit there and start declaring the dead ants on your back step as a business expense. That's when it gets complicated. Figuring out how much each ant is worth is, it's really complicated. Oh, what's the horror of all those dead ants on my step?
For violating. For the record, that is not a very free country.
Well, whatever. It's the standard by which everybody has expectations. So if we're not going to follow that expectation, then why don't we just throw out all the expectations of anything called honesty and accountability? Why bother even have a presidential race? Why don't you just sit there and paint one guy red and one guy pink and just say, what color do you like better?
Excuse me. And for the audience, just so you understand what is going on, let me explain.
Yeah, let me explain. I evaded my taxes and I don't want you to know it. Yeah, of course. I did the Helmsley thing. I mean, come on, didn't you all hear Helmsley? Well, yeah, that was really cool because it's like, yeah, only poor people pay taxes. So, of course, I don't pay fucking federal income taxes because I own real estate. And I basically monetize that and turn it into invisible cash. And then I turn it into invisible profits by, if I make any profits, I just shove it into the real estate, right? I just shove it into the basement of the building somehow. And now I don't have to pay taxes on it, but I still have the equity. And anytime I want, I can go to the bank and say, look, that building's got a bunch of gold in the basement, okay? I put it in there. So, give me the cash, you can have the gold. Right? And that way, I didn't make any money. He's a fucking crook. A tax evading criminal. And you assholes are defending him. Because you're assholes. God. Canada ought to force you to go back to Canada and have your chemotherapy sucked out of your fucking veins, you cunt.
Explain the purpose of this silly and divisive question. My esteemed opponent wants me to release my tax returns so that everyone can be shocked at how much...
This doesn't even sound like Donald Trump at all. I mean, first, you don't even have his mannerisms right. And second, you don't sound at all like him. I'm Donald Trump. And third, he wouldn't say something, my esteemed call. He wouldn't say any shit like that. Sergeant Hillary saith. That's what he would say.
Money I make, or how much I pay or don't pay in taxes, or whether I use legal mechanisms to reduce my tax burden.
Right, again, legal mechanisms like bankruptcy. Well, frankly, they're not legal mechanisms in any kind of common understood way, because we, as regular people, don't have the option of diversification. We can't pretend we're four different people. Okay, we can't make imaginary copies of ourselves and say, well, this is not really me. It's Trump. This is Tir-ump. This is Kadumpy-dump. And so, Kadumpy-dump went bankrupt. I didn't go bankrupt. It was Kadumpy-dump. Yeah, the regular people aren't given the right, okay, to be able to incorporate as imaginary people and therefore be a rapist as Kadumpy-dump, and I'll be a child molester over there, and I'll do this over there, and just pretend none of those people are connected to me. That's called fucking bullshit. And you know it, and to say, well, it's a legal mechanism. No, it's not really. It's a fucking abuse of a system based on this idea that a corporation isn't the motherfuckers who made the corporation, or it isn't the motherfuckers who own the stock in the corporation, and nobody has to take accountability. So when you go out and murder people with your corporation, instead of being responsible for it, you just lose $20 in stock. Oh, big deal. I lost $20 in stock. What a pity.
or how much I give to charity. It is all just class.
Well, if you lie about it, then it matters. If you honestly say, look, I don't think the poor people in America deserve goddamn charity. I think they're a bunch of loafing, motherfucking, self-important, motherfucking, I think I'm fucking entitled because I land on Earth. Now give me $20 million because I have anal warts. Yeah, I mean, make the argument. Donald Trump didn't make the argument. He didn't say charity sucks because it's just a waste of money because you give money to poor people and they just fuck it up. They just spend it on booze and fucking, dildos. No, instead he pretended he was generous. I love people and I care about the brown people. And then he proved how much he cares by giving all his charity to the schools that let his little Weasley kids into them, even though they didn't have the grades, and then he gave the rest of the money to cops so they would push people out of the way for him on the street. But that's it. The rest of the suffering world, like AIDS, they got $2,400. Well, $2,436. Why the $36? Who the fuck could figure that out? A billionaire who writes checks with $36 in them. What fucking billionaire would do that? I mean, really, that's like me paying, that's like me using pennies. And I'm poor, but fuck pennies.
Hating nothing more or less. Hate the rich. They stole from you. I will tell you.
Yeah, they inherited control without earning it. When you don't earn something and you take it, that's fucking stealing. Frankly, there's no other word for it. You don't earn it, you take it, that's stealing. Alright? Fuck you. I mean, it's defending people who are worse than welfare whores in terms of their sense of entitlement without doing anything of merit. Right? You reward merit. You don't reward falling out of a vagina. Why are you fucking defending as an admirable act the process of falling out of a golden vagina? Why are you fucking defending that, you stupid, weaselly cunt?
Up front, right here, right now, that I pay as little tax as possible within the law.
Well, again, you're saying within the law, and we're all arguing that it's not a law that we voted for. It's not a law that's gone to the scrutiny of a public opinion. And you know that if the public could fix the law and say, oh no, none of this fucking make up invisible characters and allow them to go bankrupt and protect yourself from the liability, you would take all the profit and you don't want any of the liability. That's called cheating, okay? That's like going to Las Vegas with counterfeit money, okay? And pretending that you're playing a fair game. No, you're a cheater, motherfucker.
I will also tell you that I think it is grossly unfair that I can afford armies of lawyers and accountants to minimize my taxes while most voters cannot.
And again, the only reason why is because he's using these lawyers to steal more money, okay? And he can do it profitably. To even imply that the average citizen has some will to do that. He'd rather keep money he believes he's earned, and the people taking it, the welfare whores, haven't earned it, or in some sense don't deserve it because they have no appreciation for it. They don't have any respect for the effective charity they're being given. They think they're fucking entitled to things. They're entitled to an iPhone, and they're entitled to this and entitled to that. That guy has a right to resent people taking his money, okay, and having no respect for it. All right, but to imply that the average citizen wants to cheat the government with lawyers, right there you show your true colors, cunt, because that wouldn't be my first ambition. My first ambition is to be treated fairly, not to cheat. Donald Trump's been treated more than fairly by America. He's been given a huge, giant advantage, a huge, giant handout, and for him to sit there and be a petty motherfucker and steal from the fucking tax code too? What the fuck is that? He's an ungrateful whore. A fucking ungrateful whore.
This is one of the many reasons why the rich are getting richer, and I oppose it. which is why I proposed simplifying the tax code to justify...
No, that's not what he proposed. He proposed simplifying the part that taxes the last little vestiges, the last little places where there actually are places where some rich people might actually have to pay a tax. That's what he wants to get rid of. He doesn't want to get rid of payroll taxes. He doesn't want to get rid of the property taxes. He's not talking about any of the taxes that common people pay. He's talking about the only tax that seems relevant to him are the taxes that the super rich pay. So wrong again, Stefan. God, you're just such an evil fucking cunt to be defending Donald the fucking useless prick Trump.
Few categories so that you can do your taxes on the back of a postcard, which for my young...
Yeah, all this big talk about, yes, doing taxes on the back of a postcard all sounds really good, but nobody wants that because everybody wants their mortgage deduction. Everybody wants their child deduction. And as soon as you start playing that game, you can't do this back of the postcard crap anymore. And again, if you did the back of the postcard crap honestly with progressive taxation, yeah, that's right, the rich aren't going to win. But certainly I'd vote for it. But that's not what Trump's going to do. So don't pretend Trump's going to make taxes fairer. Fuck you, idiot. He's going to find a way not to pay him at all.
The audience was a kind of wood-based email that traveled by Pony Express.
I'd like you to further
Excuse me.
defend that.
Excuse me. My second point is that I, like most of you, don't like paying taxes because I genuinely believe that the government squanders, wastes, and harms society.
Right, so let's understand what this squander, waste, and harm comes down to, is that it employs people who might be retarded, like postal employees, and it does some other things where it squanders the money. Okay, you can even say the military squanders the money, but it's an income given to a bunch of retards. So what's more squanderous? The trillions of dollars, the ownership of 97% of the stock market by people who never did a day's work in their fucking life, never had to think of an idea, never managed a company, never did a motherfucking thing but fall out of a vagina. They own trillions of dollars of production and decide what gets invested in. And yet they have no competence, they have no contribution, they've made no contribution, and they got this huge reward. So a huge giant reward to the dumbest, weakest, laziest motherfuckers on earth somehow makes more sense to you. Boy, you're dumb.
By using our precious tax dollars in horrifyingly destructive ways.
Okay, well look, the fact that war is not something you're going to get around, but whatever. You think Donald Trump's solution, he's got a plan for ISIS. What do you think his plan is? I'm gonna pay him some Trump dollars to go to my casino that's bankrupt. What do you think he's gonna do? Give him tokens? Free drinks? You know, they're Muslims, so yeah, the free drink thing won't work.
Waging endless undeclared wars, using our money as collateral to borrow against our children's futures.
Using our money as collateral to borrow against our children's future. That doesn't even make sense as a thing. You can't borrow as a hedge against collateral. That just doesn't. You just didn't even make sense there. You wanted to throw in the word collateral just for fun because it sounds cool, but it's totally out of place in the sentence. You should have just said we've mortgaged our children's future. But see, then if you just said that, then that sounds like what every Democrat has been saying since the beginning of time, and every Republican's been saying. Yeah, so that's the same old bullshit argument that no one's going to fix because neither side wants to give up their perks. But yes, deficit spending is bad, okay? Poor people will say that. Rich people can say that. And the ones who don't say that are the idiots who think, hey, you can just put it on the credit card forever. That's what I'm doing. And if I go bankrupt, it was Cluckerfucker. It wasn't me. Right? Invisible Cluckerfucker? Yeah, he's my invisible partner. Cluckerfucker. Yeah, he went bankrupt. I didn't go bankrupt.
Bailing out Wall Street donors and lobbyists, buying votes with rank voter bribery, you name it, it's been done. And if my opponent has her way...
Yeah, well, whatever. And again, like any rational person doesn't think Trump makes all kinds of insider deals. The people who help him he helps. You don't think any of that has happened in little Trumpy's career. And again, the argument is, if with all the government's waste, the money's not going to, buy the king, the emperor, new clothes. It's not being squandered on 200-foot yachts and all kinds of other crap. So you think the Hoover Dam was a waste of money. That's what you think. One of the most overt government-funded projects in the history of the human experiment. Just overt, grotesque, insane socialism. And it was a bad idea. No, that's when we still did it honestly. And it was a damn good idea.
It will continue to be done, folks, and more.
So it's negotiable.
Also, excuse me. Also, with all due respect to you...
This is just a joke, this excuse me line. Trump doesn't say excuse me when he interrupts, okay? He just talks over people. And to do that even in the circumstance of a debate where he showed no capacity to wait his turn. Trump is the most I'm not playing by anybody's rules ever asshole that's ever even run for president. I mean, he can't comply with a single rule. And he's obviously so fucking petty that if I said something like, your shirt looks a little yellow, he'll for the rest of time keep pointing out how white his shirt is. Because he has such a tiny dick, okay, that he can't let a single insult bounce off. Not a single one.
The American public, and with all due
Except if you call him a racist, then he'll just buy his way out of that problem.
contempt for the Democrat-run educational system that is utterly fake.
All right, the Democrat-run educational system, that's fairly hilarious. So it's like monstrously hilarious, like opposed to the Republican-run education system, which would be no schools in Harlem at all. And that's what it would be. There would be nobody would invest in a school in the shitty places, and you know it. There'd be absolutely no way to make a money or a living. It just wouldn't exist. Nobody would provide the service. Nobody would have any interest in the in getting killed for that pointless mission. So yes, without the government tanks, there's some place you can't have a school. But that's just logic. I think everybody can kind of figure this shit out. So, well, they should be able to figure it out. It really just has to do with the fact that they don't want to, and that's the point. They want to say, it's a bug, it doesn't feel. I don't have any obligations to worry about it. Fuck it, it's a stupid animal. It can't recognize itself in the mirror. It's inconsequential. Go ahead, set it on fire. It doesn't matter. So that's all the game you're playing, Stefan. You're just another fucking cunt racist jackass. And yeah, fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Jerk. Alright, but this is enough. It's just too shitty an imitation. This just doesn't give me any kind of feeling of the Trumpisms. You know, excuse me. No, not even close. Ugh. God. So anyway, enough of a video is what I'm really saying. I think I've done my job here. There's no point in... I've done my job here. You know, there's no point in continuing to do more job. I've already done the job. I've completed the task in a moderate amount of time. It's really probably enough. No point in making it a full-length motion picture. So, yeah, we'll just say that's enough. Thank you very much. And move on to the fun that will continue to percolate in this charming cesspool of bubbly methane. Ugh. What a turd. Planet of the fucking cunt turds. Alright, anyway. Till next time.